Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we take a stack of information, pull out the most important nuggets, and get you well-informed fast.
Today we're jumping into a bit of a real-world puzzle.
Yeah, this one came to us from a listener. We're calling her Aunt Green.
Right. She had these, well, mysterious plants popping up in her driveway.
And her question was pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Are these okay?
Yeah.
Are they garden-friendly? Or are they, problem weeds I need to deal with?
It's a question lots of gardeners face, isn't it? And to get to the bottom of it for Aunt Green, we're actually going to follow the journey of two really keen students, Kesser and Steen.
Oh, okay.
They're from a nature and innovation class, and they sort of took on this personal mission to help Aunt Green.
That's great.
And it turned into this fascinating deep dive. It's a perfect case study, really, for how to approach these kinds of natural challenges, with care, but also with effective strategies.
So Kesser and Steen, they were immediately curious.
Oh, yeah. They looked at these plants and wondered, are they hiding something? Are they good? Are they bad?
And it turns out they were hiding something. A bit of a surprise, actually.
Definitely. A hidden danger lurking in what looked like, well, pretty innocent greenery.
So how did they figure it out? What was their process?
Well, they were quite methodical. They followed some really sound advice from Oma, which was basically, look, but don't touch.
Good advice for unknown plants.
Absolutely. So Steen, he immediately took pictures. Smart move.
Right.
Then they talked to the man in the green shirt at the local garden center, always a good resource.
Always worth asking, yeah.
And then they hit the internet, scouring for information, comparing photos.
Did they get an ID?
They did, pretty quickly. Their suspicions were confirmed. It was wild parsnip, Passionaka sativa.
Wild parsnip. Now, most people probably know the parsnip you eat, the root vegetable.
Exactly, the tasty one you roast.
Well,
But this wild relative, as Kesser and Steen found out fast, is a whole different story.
and something people are becoming more aware of.
Yeah, definitely. Especially as more folks get into gardening or just spend more time outdoors, you start noticing these things.
It's fascinating, though, how closely related plants can be so different. One is food, the other, not so much.
It really is. You've got the cultivated one, bred for that sweet, earthy root.
Yeah.
And then the wild cousin looks, deceptively similar.
Could fool you.
Easily. But a good chef, or even just someone paying attention, would notice the difference. The wild one has this distinctly bitter, almost unpleasant smell and taste. It's kind of nature's warning sign. This isn't for dinner, it's an invader.
Okay, so let's unpack its life cycle. Because that seems key to why Kesser and Steen had to be careful and how Aunt Green needs to handle it.
Exactly. Understanding the life cycle is crucial. Wild parsnip is a biennial.
Meaning a 2-year cycle.
Right. So in its first year, it's mostly focused underground. It forms a small rosette of leaves, kind of like a dandelion you might see.
Okay, low to the ground.
Yeah, and it develops this deep taproot, storing up energy. That's the bit that, in the cultivated version, you'd harvest in the autumn.
Gotcha. And year 2.
That's when it really goes for it. It sends up a tall flower stalk, sometimes up to, 1.2 meters? About 4 feet high.
Wow, that's quite tall.
Oh, yeah. And it forms this big umbrella-like screen, an umbel, technically of pale yellow flowers, usually around July, August time.
And then comes the seeds.
Then comes the seeds. The flowers produce fruit, and inside are the seeds.
And what does the plant itself look like then? Tall, you said.
Tall, yeah, with a stiff, kind of ridged stem. The leaves have maybe 5 to 9 serrated leaflets.
Okay.
And after it sets seed, the main plant actually dies. But it often leaves behind that dead, standing stalk right through the winter.
A little monument to itself?
Sort of, yeah. And those seeds, each little fruit contains 2. They're the real problem for spreading.
How do they spread? Wind.
Mostly wind, yeah. Usually just a few meters from the parent plant, maybe 2 to 5 meters. But they can also travel by water or get stuck on animals or, even muddy boots.
And here's the kicker, right? The persistence.
Exactly. This is why Aunt Green's problem probably kept coming back. These seeds can remain viable, ready to sprout in the soil for up to 4 years.
4 years. So even if you clear a patch.
You could still be dealing with new plants popping up for several years after that initial clearing. It takes persistence to really get rid of it.
Okay, persistence is key.
Yeah.
But there's more to it than just being a persistent weed, isn't there? There's a danger element.
Yes, and this is where it gets, pretty intense. The plant's sap contains chemicals called furanocoumarins.
Furanocoumarins, okay.
And these are phototoxic.
Phototoxic, meaning light toxic.
Exactly, light-activated toxicity. So if you get this sap on your skin, and then that skin gets exposed to sunlight, UV radiation,
Uh-oh.
Yeah, oh, yes, right. It causes a really severe skin reaction called phytophotodermatitis.
Cytophotodermatitis. That sounds unpleasant.
It is. The symptoms start with redness, then an intense burning sensation, and then you get these quite severe blisters,
Blisters like a bad burn.
very much like a burn. And the affected areas can stay sensitive to light and discolored for a long time, sometimes up to 2 years.
2 years from brushing against a plant.
If you get the sap on you and then get sun exposure, yes. And there's a really serious warning, too. If the sap gets in your eyes, it can cause blindness.
Blindness. Okay, wow. Redness, burning, severe blisters, possible blindness.
Yeah.
This is not your average weed.
No, definitely not. It really drives home that look but don't touch advice, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And you mentioned the risk increases on sunny days.
Right, because you need that UV light to trigger the reaction. So handling the foliage, pulling old plants, especially when the sun's out, that's when you need to be most careful.
It's not just people.
No, livestock, poultry too.
Hmm.
Anywhere their skin might be exposed and come into contact with the sap, they can have reactions. Plus, the plant has other compounds, polynines, which are generally toxic to cells.
So multiple defense mechanisms.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And these toxic properties are tough. They don't really break down with heating or storage.
Okay, this is serious stuff. So Kesser and Steen identified it, understood the danger. What did they do next? You mentioned reporting it.
Yes, and this is a great example of citizen science. They reported they're finding the wild parsnip in Ant Green's driveway to the Danish Environmental Agency. They used a specific research website for logging species.
Ah, so contributing data.
Exactly. It shows how individual observations, like Ant Green's initial question and the student's investigation, can feed into a bigger picture. It helps researchers track invasive species, understand their spread.
It makes you realize your own backyard observations could actually be important.
Totally. And we'd really encourage listeners, check if there are similar reporting systems in your area. It's a small action that can make a real difference.
Okay, so they've identified it, reported it. Now, tackling it. How do you actually combat this thing, especially knowing how dangerous the sap is?
Well, going back to Oma's wisdom, understanding the life cycle is key. Just like fighting mildew, you need to know its weak points. And the absolute first step in any kind of first aid situation is stop the accident, prevent further spread and exposure.
Right, so stopping the seeds seems critical.
Absolutely. Mechanical control, like cutting, is a primary method. The crucial thing is to cut the plant down before it sets seed. Ideally, when the first flowers are just starting to open.
Just once.
No, that's the catch. You often need to repeat it. Many times, actually. Remember that taproot? It's like a battery storing energy. You need to keep cutting the top growth to deplete that energy reserve.
Drain the battery.
Exactly. Keep cutting until the root is exhausted or until the frost finally kills the top growth for the year. But even then, you have to keep watching in subsequent years because of those dormant seeds.
And you mentioned just cutting the flower heads isn't enough.
Right, that can backfire. If you just snip off the main flower head, the plant often responds by sending up 2 new flower stalks from lower down. Sneaky.
Huh. Okay, so cutting the whole stalk down repeatedly seems better. What about smaller plants? First-year rosettes.
For smaller plants, especially in the first year, hand pulling can work. Or using a spade to chop the root below the surface. The key is to get them before they get too big and established.
Makes sense. The longer you wait, the bigger the problem.
That's the truth with invasive species, for sure.
And disposal. What do you do with the plants you cut down, especially the seed heads?
Good question. You definitely want to collect the flower heads to prevent seed dispersal. The advice is usually to dispose of them as burnable waste, but always check with your local recycling center or waste management. Rules can vary place to place.
Okay, crucial safety measures then. This brings up the big question.
Yeah.
How do you actually do this safely? Kesser and Steen must have figured this out for Ant Green.
Absolutely vital. You must protect your skin. That means gloves, sturdy ones, long sleeves, long pants, no exceptions. The goal is 0 skin contact with the sap and therefore avoiding that UV activation.
Full body armor, almost.
Well, maybe not full armor, but definitely full coverage. And afterwards, it's really important to thoroughly wash your tools, spades, cutters, gloves, and your clothes, separately from other laundry, to remove any lingering sap.
Treat it like a hazardous material, basically.
A mild one, maybe, but yes, with that level of caution.
Now, we talked about mechanical control. What about chemicals? Herbicides? Are they an option?
Generally, they're discouraged for wild parsnip, especially if mechanical methods are feasible.
Why is that?
Well, several reasons. Herbicides aren't selective. They can harm beneficial plants and soil organisms. There's runoff contamination risk for water sources. And honestly, they can sometimes give a false sense of security. People spray once and think it's done.
But the seeds are still there.
Exactly. The seeds are still there, waiting. With wild parsnip, persistence and mechanical removal is usually the most effective and environmentally sound approach. It's about consistently draining that root's energy.
It sounds like wild parsnip isn't alone in this kind of danger, though. Are there other plants we should know about?
Oh, definitely. The most famous one probably is giant hogweed, Heracleum mentigazianum.
Ah, yes, I've heard of that one. Causes similar skin issues.
Very similar and often even more severe. It also has that phototoxic sap. The focus with hogweed, like parsnip, is really on early detection and eradication before it gets established.
How do people manage hogweed, especially if it's in a larger area?
Well, sometimes grazing is used. If you have an area suitable for, say, cows or sheep, they can help keep it down.
Do the animals get affected?
They can, yeah. Especially lighter-skinned animals might get some skin irritation, like eczema, on exposed parts like their noses or udders. So it's a consideration. Another method for larger areas is using something like a flail mower behind a tractor.
But the sap is still a major hazard.
Absolutely. Hogweed sap can cause photosensitivity that lasts for months, even after washing. We're talking serious skin injuries, true burns, weeping sores, a lot of discomfort. You have to have real respect for these kinds of plants.
Respect for scary plants. I like that. But it's interesting because both wild parsnip and giant hogweed belong to the same plant family, right? The umbellifers?
That's right, the Apiaceae family. Think carrots, parsley, celery, dill. Lots of familiar friends in that family, too.
So, it's not all bad news in the umbellifer world?
Not at all. Parsley, for instance. If you let it go to seed in its second year, it forms those classic umbel flower heads, free seeds for next year.
Right.
And Oma, who gave Kesser and Steen that initial advice, she grows bronze fennel in her organic garden, another delicious umbellifer.
And Oma had a particular philosophy about this, didn't she? About learning, not just banning.
She really did. She shared this quote with Kesser and Steen, which I think is brilliant. How in the world would they ever get to know them if they are not allowed to look at them?
Powerful point.
Her view is that just banning things or creating fear isn't the answer. Instead, we need thorough training, good explanations, especially for young people. It's about equipping them with knowledge and respect.
So understanding allows for safe interaction rather than just avoidance.
Exactly. Empowerment through education. Knowing how to be careful, why you need to be careful, lets you appreciate the whole ecosystem, even the challenging parts.
And you mentioned ecological benefits too, beyond the kitchen garden uses.
Oh, yeah. Fennel, for example, those flowers are like jet fuel for hoverflies.
Hoverflies, the little bee mimics.
That's them. And their larvae are voracious aphid predators. So planting fennel helps control pests naturally. Oma always says, if you don't feed your little friends, they stop working for you.
That's a great way to put it, supporting the beneficial insects.
And even letting things like carrots go to seed, those umbel flowers add structure and beauty to the garden, creating these lovely multi-tiered views. It's about seeing the whole system.
It really shifts the perspective.
Right.
Are there other plants, maybe outside the umbellifer family, that have this mix of caution and benefit?
Sure. Think about valerian, Valeriana officinalis. Its root has a long history of medicinal use, primarily as a sleep aid. And the plant itself is great for attracting beneficial insects.
Okay, valerian. Any others?
Well, there's St. John's wort. Paracon is another name, historically used for, let's say, melancholy.
Right, avoiding the medical term depression.
Exactly. It has a history of use for mood, but interestingly, it also has phototoxic potential, particularly for animals.
Oh, really?
How so? In places where it grows abundantly, especially in warmer climates, if light-skinned animals like certain breeds of sheep eat a lot of it.
They get sunburned.
Essentially, yes. The compounds in the plant make their skin much more sensitive to sunlight, so they can get quite badly burned.
Wow. So that really ties back to the whole theme. You need to understand what you're dealing with, what you or your animals are consuming, and its potential effects.
Precisely. It's all interconnected. Knowledge is key.
So wrapping this all up then, what's the big takeaway from Kesser and Steen's investigation for Ant Green?
I think it really shows that getting curious about something seemingly small, like a weed in a driveway, can lead to understanding much bigger concepts.
Like plant life cycles, chemical defenses?
Yeah, phototoxicity, the importance of careful handling, invasive species management, citizen science. It's not just about pulling a weed.
It's about interacting with nature in a more informed, responsible, and frankly effective way.
Absolutely. And I think this kind of detailed knowledge, knowing about both the dangers and the benefits of the plants around us, it changes how we see things.
How so?
Well, it moves us from just passively looking at our environment to becoming active, informed stewards of it, knowing the why behind the what, why this plant is dangerous, why that one is beneficial, why this method works. It really transforms how you view your own backyard or the local park, doesn't it?
It really does. It encourages a deeper look, a bit more respect, maybe.
Definitely respect and curiosity.
A great thought to end on. How does knowing the why change your view? Something for all of us to think about next time we're outdoors. And if you found this deep dive valuable, if you want more shortcuts to getting well informed on fascinating topics like this, please be sure to subscribe to The Deep Dive, wherever you get your podcasts.